order of the community, the meeting to select an interim president of KCTCS. Please call the roll, Ms. Duffy.
Advisory member, Dr. Young.
Present.
Chair Stevens.
Present.
Vice Chair Martin.
Present.
Secretary Fletcher.
Present.
Regent Finan.
Here.
Regent Hurdy.
Here.
Regent Whitten.
Present.
All members are present. We have a quorum.
We're turning Hannah, an update. Since you're the project coordinator.
She's needed.
I am actually going to let General Counsel Duncan lead this discussion as she is working closely with the registry and I believe.
So also we need to approve the minutes, it looks like.
Okay.
Were there any changes to the minutes?
Hearing none, take them by consensus or vote. All those in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. All right.
Everyone's.
All right, Ms. Dunn.
All right, so this is where we are. I have spoken to the registry. We have a consultant, Dr. Richard Green, who has a staff who will be putting together interim candidates. I supplied him with the attributes document, and just today when we knew that we had closed out the feedback from staff and faculty, we provided that feedback to him as well. He responded and indicated that it would be very helpful, and thank you very much. So he will be incorporating that. However, in reviewing it, most of what was discussed was already in the attributes and qualities document. However, it was very nice to see that we did have faculty and staff input and feedback on what was desired in an interim. So the registry, our consultant, has that. In addition, prior to being able to find candidates, they needed to know the parameters. Now, you all will be the final say on salary rate and salary and allowances, but I did need to give a range, and so I gave a range that topped out at what you originally contracted with the last president for, not the raised portion, but the original contract portion. That would be the maximum. There would be a car allowance, as there typically is for travel, with no other types of reimbursement for travel. And then there will be a stipend for other executive allowances. So that was provided to him as well, to the consultant, so that he can determine, he can put that out there to candidates. I also indicated to the consultant that we, the board, would like to see, or this committee would like to see, at least a pool of 5 to 10 potential candidates, if possible, in order to have sufficient pool to select 3 eligible candidates who could move on to full board interviews and review. So that will be forthcoming. Additionally, Hannah worked with the web services and with technology solutions to set up a website and an interim mailbox that could accept external and unrelated to the registry candidates. As of this afternoon, we have not received any in that mailbox, but we are asking individuals who feel that they meet the minimums and who meet the requirements for an interim that they apply through that process. Hannah, would you like to address that a little more?
Sure. And I've received many questions about whether or not that mailbox is anonymous. And so the three individuals who do have access to that mailbox are Chair Stevens, General Counsel Duncan, and myself. And if we do receive applications in that mailbox, we will be sharing them with our VP of HR. She will be reviewing all applications from the mailbox to ensure that they meet minimum qualifications. And then if they do pass the HR threshold, then they will come to the committee. But that will, of course, be done anonymously in closed session. So if there's anyone out there thinking about applying, you can be sure that your name will be kept anonymous and be protected just as they would in any other job search. And the deadline for submitting those applications it's March 17th. And we have put information out there, not only in an email, but we will be putting that in the Buzz and Scoop as well. And again, that address where those can be submitted are interim.search@kctcs.edu.
Regent Harding?
Yeah, I guess two quick questions. Is that normal procedure when you hire out a third-party firm to give you candidates to also open it up to other candidates? That's question one.
This committee discussed whether that would be the case, whether they could have external candidates as well. And it was in that discussion, it was our understanding that the consensus of this committee was that they would like to have that available to them as well. So it will be really more expansive in that way. But again, nobody who, I'm about to use a double negative, anyone who does not meet the minimums will not move forward.
And go ahead.
That's
And I think a point of clarification, Regent Herdink, the registry is not a search firm. It is a placement firm. So typically, I do believe if we hired a search firm to go out there and find candidates who meet these qualifications and send us all of those candidates, that would be a little bit different. But because they are a placement firm and they only use people who are a part of the registry, which includes joining the registry and saying, I am willing to be considered for these interim searches as they come up across the country. If there is someone who is, currently in a job that wants to be considered for this position, but may not be willing to join the registry because, again, they are currently employed. I think that's where the distinction is here. So we wanted to make sure that we were casting a broad net, and we get those who are currently a part of the registry, but also those who did not want to join the registry but are interested in the position.
Barry, before I have a second part of my question, do you have a comment?
No, I was just going to do a follow-up question. Go ahead and ask your second one, Joe.
I guess the second one leads into that. If they do not become part of the registry, do we still have to pay that 30% fee on their salary to the registry? Okay, so they're exempt from that.
right.
Okay, that's the question.
Remember that particular fee we do not pay benefits. So if we actually hire someone, then rather than go through the registry, we will then have the benefits in addition to the base salary.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Very.
I just had a question. Does the placement firm feel like our compensation and our compensation, our wages and compensation package is comparable? Will it attract appropriate candidates?
They did not seem to have any issue with it. They said that was very healthy. That is really all they commented.
Okay.
And remember, as Hannah said, most of the individuals in the registry are retired from academia because they specialize in academic searches and presidents and provosts and all of that. So most of them are retired and likely don't necessarily have to have top of the billing. But when you come to a final presidential search, a permanent president, then you will want to determine whether there are benchmarks that you want to look at from other states or around the state.
Going back to Joe, your question, I'm sorry, you done?
I think that's something that we probably do need to look at in between now and finding a permanent, is to make sure that our compensation is comparable to attract a top level candidate. And I'm not saying we don't have that. I'm just saying we need to make sure that if what we put in our parameters of what we're looking for, that calls for a top level candidate. And we need to be able to compensate them as a top level candidate. I'm done.
Joe, in reference to your comment, I'm glad we put it in there because there may be some people in Kentucky, for example, or even neighboring states that are not members of this registry that are retired, high-level administrative people and universities. And it may be willing, and I was thinking more, to be honest with you, in state, there may be some people that have retired from the regional universities or so in the last year and decided that they may be interested, but are not a member of this registry. So I think it's a good idea. It gives us an opportunity to find out who is out there. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Going forward is with what Pam has told you is that, let me lay out a scenario for you and see if I can get your blessing. The application deadline is the 17th. Basically, what I would propose to you is that our next meeting be on the, I had it here just a moment ago.
21st.
Be on the 21st. And basically to review, as you said, we're going to make sure HR, they meet the qualifications as far as the criteria. But to review all of the applicants paper-wise, and she will try to make arrangements. I've asked her, and she said she'll get it out some way, shape, form, or fashion, so that you have a list of bio and we can discuss the candidates. There may be, if we have 12, there may be 6 of them or so that we want to eliminate immediately. With that being said, we could do that, or, and it's going to play out, in my opinion, is that how many, first of all, I think if we've got several candidates that we really like, say 4 to 5 or 6, I think the committee would like to interview those candidates. And you correct me if I'm wrong, committee members, and to pare it down to 2 or 3 to take to the board. But we really don't know until we get the candidates and we start looking at them. So my theory is that get the names, get the candidates, have a lengthy discussion, brief discussion, never how long you want it is, and try to get to make a decision after that meeting. If we've got 6, I think that the committee wants to interview them to try to get it down to 2 or 3. And if we go through it and there's only 3, then and that's all we have. I'm of the opinion, I'll just tell you right up front, and why go through the interview process with the committee and interview process with the board. So I think that is kind of, we just have to play it by ear. I wanted you to know what I'm thinking. And I'm certainly welcome your comments and input, but to get the applications have a meeting on the 21st, review those and to see if we can, and if we want to discuss them further, if we get it down to 6 or 7 and we want to discuss them in person, since we're not starting the March meeting till 1:30, then we could have a committee meeting again at 11 o'clock or 11:30 prior to the board meeting and try to review those and number down is what it's saying.
So I don't know if Regent Martin's hand is just up because he didn't take it down, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, well, go ahead. I'm done.
Regent Martin had a hand up and so did Regent Fletcher. So let's go with Regent Fletcher.
So my comment was, the 21st, that's our Huron update meeting already scheduled for 4 to 6. Could we make that start time or announce that start time as conditional upon the adjournment of that meeting so we can move immediately into it and not wait until 6 o'clock to do that?
Yes.
Yes, and the majority of that meeting, the 21st meeting, if we have actual candidates at that time, should be in closed session. So we could begin the meeting and immediately go into closed session for review of candidates.
Okay, that was my only comment. I'm fine with that timeline and that schedule. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Regent Martin, did you have a question? Okay. Regent Harding?
How soon would we be able to review those applications? We're not gonna review them in the exact meeting, or, I mean, that would be kind of chaotic. Will we get those in advance, a couple days or something? So,
So what we'll look at is, after the cutout off date, all of those that make the minimum plus the ones that come from the registry, we will set up a limited permissions folder for you all to get into. And so only people on this committee would have access to it.
perfect.
And if we had 6 applicants by March the 12th, I think Hannah and I talked about it. We're gonna send you those 6. We're not gonna send you one at a time, but if we get several, we'll send them ahead of time. They're gonna have to figure out, Dave, referring to Hannah and Pam, how to do that in confidence is, but we will certainly let you know. Yes.
Dr. Young?
I just wanted to ask, I don't have access to my calendar because I'm on the phone on Teams. Is that our PLT meeting? Is that on the 20th or is that the 21st?
I think
So do you
he
have that
said,
on your calendar?
well, I think Dr. Ferguson said the 27th. He's in the other office, so I don't know. I'll try to get that. Dr. Ferguson, who listened to us, tell us when
The 27th.
27th, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I had that wrong. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
But again, I think it's just a matter of how many we get. And I didn't want to, and I agree with Joe, is that if we want to, as a committee, discuss those prior to the regular board meeting, that's fine. And the entire board has to make the decision. As I talked to Hannah and Pam, and I'm optimistic, is Pam says they think they'll have several of them. Well, we'll see. So that's the thing is, so I saw somebody's hand up.
I think they're all down.
All right.
And just a note that we did have on our agenda a closed session, but of course, without any candidates to review at this point, we will not need to go into closed session today.
And I'm certainly open for suggestions if we can do it any better. But I think, and I had talked to what the committee to do. I had talked to Dr. Ferguson, and he has said he will be willing to stay for a couple of weeks prior to or in April. My thought is that if the committee does interviews, we'll do those by team video and Hannah will have to arrange times and everything like that there will be in an evening, I would assume because of the work schedule of the rest of you. When we get to the board selection to interview the 2 or 3, that will be a special call board meeting. It will be done by either Teams or in person in Versailles. I have asked Hannah to, when we have that selection, the 2 or 3, to see if all the possibility that those individuals interested can attend in person in Versailles.
Regent Hurting?
Can we talk about the salary in open session?
She's already given you the information on this. Well,
Yes.
No, I don't think we didn't get information, did we, on the salary?
No, all I said was that I tapped it out. I maxed it out at 360, which was Dr. Sarapata's original
Yes.
Contract here, salary, base salary.
So is there a range, is it like a minimum to that, or?
There was a minimum of 300 to 360.
360. And with that, was there any travel allowance?
There was a travel allowance. There was not a travel allowance, just the vehicle allowance, which includes, the prohibition against using fleet car and getting reimbursement for mileage.
What was that vehicle allowance?
We didn't settle on it. I can't remember what Dr. Zarapata's was or what Dr. Botson's.
$14,000
$14,000, I think.
a year.
Yeah.
And I think you did mention a
A housing.
general use fund or stipend or something.
So
What was
we're gonna
that?
call it a housing stipend to begin with, but at the 6-month period, we will reevaluate that. I told Dr. Green the board could kind of reevaluate that, but it would probably then translate to an executive allowance, which Dr. Fox had and most of the presidents have.
And what,
And
do
this
you know what that is?
It's usually anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000.
And this contract will be for 6 months. Contract for a minimum of 6 months, right?
A minimum.
Yeah,
But
minimum
This
of
committee,
6 months, yeah.
and this committee had said anywhere up to 18
Yes, yes.
months.
But we will do, at least it will be for 6 months.
And General Counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, but while the contract negotiations could be, of course, private, the ultimate contract would be subject to open records
That's correct.
as any other presidential presidential contract would.
That is correct.
And we will need to ask Hannah for the board's permission to have the executive board to approve this contract interim so that we don't have to have a full board meeting. So if you put that as an agenda item on it also, right, Pam? Right, so the executive board of Barry and I, Wendy, after Pam gets all the information, she will ask for us to concur with this proposal.
And remember, with the registry, if the candidate comes from the registry, the actual contract is with the registry.
Yes.
It is not with the candidate.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And just to clarify, just for my purposes, because I'm sure that you have said this already, General Counsel. If it is a Huron, or I'm sorry, wrong word. I have double notes right, and I'm writing double things here. I was like, post Huron meeting. If the person comes from the registry, we have some protections in place. If they're an outside candidate, those protections do not exist, correct?
I'm sorry, say it again. I just got a message from the registry, so it distracted me.
No, you're fine. Hey, I get it. If the candidate comes from the registry, we have protections as far as if we're unhappy or the contract doesn't work, right? We have those
Yes.
kind of clauses in there, but if the candidate that we choose is an outsider that does not come from the registry, we of course would not have those protections.
Right, we would have to write those protections into the contract, so that we would not have, likely would not have a 30-day cancellation like we would with the registry. Plus, the registry also is, I think I kind of likened it to a supply minister before. So if you are not happy with the candidate you got, then you could say in 30 days, please supply us with another proper candidate. But I had asked for a status update from the registry, and it looks like it has come. So let me see. So his team, Dr. Green's team, has identified more than 10 registry members who met the requirements for interim presidency, and they have until March 6th to provide a statement to indicate why they think they are a match for the interim placement. And once they determine whether they are matches for this interim placement, they will send the information to us about potential candidates. And that should arrive by next Tuesday.
And I think what we will do, I will work with General Counsel Duncan to elaborate on if it's a registry person, these are the kind of items that come with that person versus a non-registry person. So that's very clear for committee members.
That would be very helpful, Hannah. Thank you.
Yeah, because that could really restrict, I guess, the quality of our candidates to a certain extent.
Any other questions? Sorry.
I think in the registry, the quality of the candidates is pretty much proven. They've been vetted. They are not going to be accepted by the registry unless they have had a pretty stellar career. Because that's their job. The registry, that's their business. They're not going to provide someone who doesn't meet a pretty high standard. So, the vetting and everything is on us when they come through the mailbox. So just keep that in mind as well.
So let me ask, if we hire somebody through the registry, we just pay the registry a flat rate for that person, and then they have the benefits and the compensation package, right?
Right, and that's what that fee is all about. So there's a percentage. Think of it as like, I hate to say this, the human resources company, Kelly Services. So you pay a fee to them, and then you pay the salary, et cetera, directly to the candidate or the person, so that it's all flowing really through the registry, and they divide it up in percentage that goes to the registry, percentage that goes over to the individual.
So I guess if we hire someone with the caliber of a $300,000 salary, then we would be paying the registry almost $100,000 with the 33%. Is that right?
Well, it depends on how they generally do have that. I am not a numbers person, but yes, you would have a breakdown of that fee. Now, I need to go look at the contract. I don't want to get too deep into it right now until we figure out whether we're going to, which way we're going to go. If it's going to be an external candidate or a registered candidate. But yes, there will be a percentage. I need to go look at the contract to see whether the percentage is kind of taken out of the initial salary or whether the percentage is added on top of the salary.
And I've also like asked Ms. Duncan if we go to the restaurant and they're working on a hire theirs to see if anything can be negotiated. Guess that's the type of terminology. And that's what I'm saying.
Look at the contract.
Yeah,
Right.
see what can be negotiated through the
And
contract.
I can get these questions answered
Prior to next meeting.
prior to the next meeting, yes.
Any other questions?
Looks like Regent Herdink.
Joe?
Yeah, I just want to comment as a staff person. Right now, we're kind of looking for stability. So when we talk about these clauses, they get someone out in 30 days. I would really like all that to be very last resort. I hope they're going to give us some good candidates, and we're going to pick a really good person. But I want to see some stability. I think the people I represent want to see some stability. So that's all I want to say about that.
I think that is a very good comment, Regent Herdink. I think you echo, everyone in the system would echo you. And so we will keep that in mind when we are bringing you these candidates and looking at this. But always with any government contract, we have to have that 30 days in there, but yes, it should be a last resort.
And I've asked Hannah and Pam to prepare for us some type of question sheet or tally sheet so that we have, if you have any suggestions and ideas, please send them to Hannah. Questions you want to ask of the candidates if we start interviewing the candidates. And one of the things that I would hope we would look forward, we've got as Wendy said, Wendy and I talked about it in Barry and Huron report, we've got a lot of tough decisions that maybe need to be made in the next 6, 9 months or a year. And this person needs to be the type of person, because they're going to walk away, and they need to be the person can guide us and through these tough decisions as we go forward. So hopefully that it will make the new president, when selecting, a much easier transition after some of these hard decisions have been made. Dr. Young?
Chair Stevens, you mentioned that we could send questions. Is that for this selection committee only, or is that something being opened up? Or should
Yeah, let's do the first, the selection committee, and then Hannah, we will save all your questions and we may use those for the full board also in that regard. So I want your input.
would it
So I would encourage you to yes.
would it be okay for those of us who are representing others to inquire of their input, and of course not send you every question, but if there were some themes that we saw that would bubble up to the top, make sure that we make that a part of a question that we would desire to be asked?
Certainly, we ask the input from all of the 16 college presidents and their appropriate staff. We want to be transparent, and we want to do this and do it correctly.
Chair Stevens, do we want
Thank you
those
so
questions
much.
to go to Regent Bonin, who put the document together initially, or are they all coming to you? How do you want us to filter those
Well,
questions?
I think these questions that we're going to ask these candidates need to go to Hannah and then to the board. I mean, back to the committee and eventually to the board is what I'm saying. I'll be glad that if Karen wants to undertake that, that's fine, but I think that Hannah is the coordinator, so we need to, maybe it needs to go to Hannah if anybody wants to be sure we ask these questions of these candidates for interim. And then we'll use a lot of the same other questions for the selection process of the president's, what I'm saying.
I was just thinking about
Yeah.
vetting those questions through the document to see which category of those attributes that the question would apply to. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Regent Martin.
Yeah, Joe, I agree. We definitely want stability. I think the thing that, from my perspective, is the 30 days or the quick out gives you an option if something doesn't click with the candidate. And I mean, you never really know that until somebody gets into the job and starts working. And the last thing you want is for the first 30, 60, 90 days to turn out to be a catastrophe, but you've got them for another 6 months or another year. I get, and I understand that it's a hard sell, especially to an academic person, to not have a 6 month or year out or whatever. But in the same token, from the entrepreneurial side, you don't want to get stuck with a bad apple and not have a way out. And I don't think the way out is to pay the contract off all the time. I'm not in baseball and football and basketball. So, and I think we do need to come up with the set questions from each of those 4 areas that we've developed. And they probably should be the same questions from us as an interim and on to the board.
Anna.
Yes, I am happy to take suggestions for questions. You can send those to me. If you're on the committee, you can talk to your constituents. I would like to request, though, that before we start sending all of those in, that I perhaps get a chance to work with our HR professionals. As you know, we have a whole HR staff that do interviews on the regular, and I am not an HR professional. So hopefully we can compile a list as a starting point, and I can share that with the committee, and then perhaps we can go from there with any additions or questions that we want to delete. But I'm sure that there are some general standard questions out there that we should be covering in our due diligence as the first kind of interviewers on this journey.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Brianna?
Yes, Chair Stevens, thank you. So Hannah, you were reading my mind again. And you already answered the question that I was gonna ask, but might I recommend that maybe we get those HR professionals, since we're talking about those questions filtering in categories, could we go ahead and maybe have some kind of statement, maybe that Lynn can draft, and perhaps send to the committee members that we can then send on to our constituents saying we would like them under these categories. That'll make your life easier a little bit later on too.
And I think also Pam, you correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ferguson said today that when we do these checks, or Hannah, you can correct me, that one person in HR will do that, and it'll probably be head of HR to make sure that everything is. So basically, yes, a lot of these are going to HR, but it won't be 3 or 4 people in HR doing it. It'll be assigned to one person, and Dr. Ferguson to make sure that gets done.
So, and I have had confirmation that it is an annualized, it is a monthly annualized salary. So the salary would be broken up, the annual salary, and then it's 33% above that. So yes, it is an above, not an inclusion.
Any other questions?
But Regent Herdink and others, I would note that for a kind of consideration of what benefits we pay for employees, we usually tack on a 43 to 47% addition of the salary. And I would note that Regent Finan is here, so just for the record.
Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none. Do I hear, don't see anybody.
Nope.
Do I hear none? Do I hear a motion with adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Those,
And.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening, weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Have fun.